My name is Terry. Sitting in my office overlooking the east wing of the hospital, I'm staring at the photograph on my desk. It's a picture of me and my Aunt Lily on the curb outside the Ivy Bistro. We're both wrapped in our coats, and my diploma is lying across our laps. A kind stranger took this shot for us. This photo always takes me back to that fateful night, a night that changed everything. It was the night after my graduation. My father, Victor, had reserved a private dining room at the Ivy Bistro, a high-end restaurant in the city center. This place had crystal chandeliers, velvet-covered chairs, and a sommelier with an encyclopedic knowledge of wines. I was caught off guard. Victor was a penny pincher, not one to splurge on such a grand gesture. For a second, I allowed myself to hope that this was the moment he'd finally see me. The private room was filled with about 40 people, including extended family, my parents' friends, and some of my father's colleagues I'd never met. As we feasted on the sumptuous food and sipped the fine wine, my father stood up and tapped his glass. The room fell silent. He started talking about achievement, perseverance, and what it meant to make the family proud. My heart fluttered. I set down my fork and sat up straight. After all those years of being ignored, under-supported, and subtly dismissed, I was sure this was it. He was going to say my name. But he didn't. He uttered my younger sister, Iris's name instead. He turned to her, who was sitting 2 chairs away from me, and raised his glass. I wish it was you up there getting that diploma. You're the only child who's ever truly made me proud, he said, words that have echoed in my head every day since then. The atmosphere in the room shifted immediately. A few people stole glances at me, someone coughed awkwardly, and my Aunt Lily let out a soft gasp. My mother, Vera, nodded slowly, deliberately, just like she would when agreeing with a minor point. Iris looked uncomfortable. She stared at her plate without saying a word. And neither did anyone else. I picked up my glass, then put it down. I folded my napkin neatly and placed it beside my plate. I quietly pushed back my chair, stood up, and walked out of that room. As I passed through the main restaurant, past a table of happy people celebrating a birthday, the cool evening air hit me like a shockwave when I stepped out onto the pavement. I counted the minutes, and for 11 long minutes, no one followed me. Then, my Aunt Lily found me sitting on the curb, still holding my diploma and wearing my graduation gown, the tassel brushing against the concrete. She sat down beside me in silence for a long while. Then she said, "What he did in there was wrong, and everyone in that room knows it." Strangely enough, I didn't cry. I'd spent my whole life preparing for moments like this, moments when my father could dismiss my worth without a second thought. But sitting there, I didn't feel broken. I felt determined. Let me rewind a bit. I'd worked my fingers to the bone for 4 years to reach that graduation day. I'd pulled double shifts at a local coffee shop near the university, studying under the dim light of a flickering lamp in my shabby dorm room while my roommate snored away. I'd skipped countless family gatherings because I couldn't afford the train ticket. And finally, on that sunny June Saturday, I stepped onto the graduation stage in a borrowed dress and cheap heels. I felt like a winner. The auditorium was jam-packed, with at least 230 guests, some having traveled from neighboring states. There were balloons, flowers, and proud parents beaming with joy. My family had driven for 4 hours to be there. When I saw them in the 3rd row, Aunt Lily was on her feet, clapping vigorously above her head even before they called my name. My mother gave me a polite half-smile, the kind she saves for neighbors. My father sat there with his arms folded, not moving a muscle. He leaned over to say something to Iris, and she burst out laughing. I told myself it didn't matter, I was just being too sensitive. That was my reflex over the years. The morning after graduation, I woke up in Aunt Lily's spare bedroom, with my diploma propped up against the wall. A plan was already forming in my mind. I didn't feel sorry for myself. I'd long built a life without my father's approval, money, or real presence. I felt a sense of clarity, like a fog had finally lifted. For the next 3 days, I made a series of quiet, professional calls. You see, my father didn't know that during those 4 years when he was busy being proud of Iris, I'd graduated at the top of my class. I'd completed 2 prestigious internships at well-known research institutions. I'd co-authored a paper on healthcare innovation that was accepted by a national medical journal. And 3 weeks before graduation, I'd landed a senior position at Royal Medical Network, one of the most prominent hospital chains in the state, with a salary that would have left my father speechless if he'd bothered to ask. On the 4th day, I called my grandmother, Amelia. She was 76 years old, sharp as a whip, and the one person in the family my father actually listened to. I told her everything, just the facts, in a calm voice. After a long silence, she simply asked, "He did that at your graduation?" The way she said it told me I'd set something in motion. True to her style, Amelia called a family gathering. She didn't ask for permission or accept excuses. She told Victor, Vera, Iris, 3 uncles, 2 aunts, and 4 cousins to be at her house the following Sunday at 2 p.m. Without explaining why. My father thought it was just another routine family get-together and showed up in a pressed shirt, looking relaxed and completely oblivious. When he walked into the dining room and saw me sitting there, my hands folded and my framed diploma in front of me, he hesitated for a split second, then quickly covered it up with a cursory nod. He took his seat at the far end of the table. Amelia didn't waste any time. She stood up and recounted every detail of what had happened at the Ivy Bistro, just as I'd told her. As she spoke, I watched my father's face go through a range of emotions, confusion, irritation, and then an attempt to form a defense. But as he looked around the room, he realized no one was going to help him wriggle out of this. My Uncle Henry, his brother, said, "Victor, what were you thinking?" My cousin Maya, usually quiet at family events, spoke up. "I was at that dinner. I saw her leave, and I should have followed." "I'm sorry, Terry." One by one, family members shared their thoughts, not in a loud or dramatic way, but with honest words that filled the room. My father tried twice to change the subject, once by questioning Amelia's version of the events and once by bringing up something Iris had struggled with years ago. But Amelia just waited patiently for him to finish and then continued. That evening, Iris called me. She was sobbing before I even said hello. I never wanted him to do that. I never asked him to say those things, she cried. I believed her. We'd never been enemies, we'd just been living in our father's shadow, in a world where there was only one winner. The change after that Sunday wasn't immediate. My father didn't transform overnight. He didn't call me in tears to apologize. But 3 weeks later, I received a text message. It was short, just 7 words. My words at dinner were wrong. For Victor, that was a huge step. I started my job at Royal Medical Network the following Monday. Whenever the work gets tough, I look at that photograph on my desk. It reminds me that on the night my father tried to erase me, I walked out and walked straight to where I was meant to be. He wanted the room to remember Iris, but instead, they all remembered his mistake, including him. And if I had to do it all over again, I would.